We want to talk about the comedy show on Netflix. Dave Chappelle has caused a lot of issues with his comedy show. I'm not sure who saw it or who wants to start off with this. Please put your hand up, Mikey. I know your hand is still up from the last time. Whoever wants to go in and talk about Dave Chappelle. Fred?
Yes, I saw the special. I saw nothing in it that reflected what the transgender community was so enraged about. It was, I mean, everything that he said was true. It was on point. It had different aspects of how people view the transgender community. And then it had aspects of how the transgender community uses transgender when it's beneficial, and then use race when it's beneficial. And I mean, I didn't see the what everybody was so up in arms about, but I do recognize that it would be hard pressed for me to believe that with as many people that are born, that some people are not born without some of the things that men have, or some of the things that women have, the feelings, the expressions, the gene, all the genes, or the whatever. So I do believe that some people can have the physical characteristics, but not the mental characteristics. But then how do you fit that all into society? I mean, I worked with a person at the time, I did not know that they were transgender, but to me it looked like a woman. But when I went in the bathroom, this person is in the bathroom that verifies or as transgender. Well, you look like a woman to me, and I was uncomfortable being in the bathroom. So I go out and to ask management, hey, why is this woman in the bathroom with me? And they said, oh, by HIPAA, we can't say that the person is transgender. And I guess the only way I can say that, if you don't have the same plumbing as I do, then me and you shouldn't be in the bathroom together, you know? And so I don't know how the transgender thing is going to fit, but Dave Chappelle was right on with what he said. There was nothing negative about what he said, but what he said was true, and he put it in a way of being comical, but it was right on.
Can somebody talk about what Dave Chappelle, I didn't see it. Can somebody summarize what he did say?
Howard is going to jump in there, so he may talk about that.
Yeah, I can't summarize what he said without having articles in front of me, even though I've read some. But you might get some idea based on this and what Fred has said. I congratulate Dave Chappelle for being a strong Black man, for illuminating individual, institutional, and structural racism, which is the most fundamental contradiction in this thoroughly racist, white supremacist-based society. I congratulate him. I praise him. I uphold him. I support him. So he's raised racism in that community, in the LGBTQ, and I might not have all of the alphabets. He's raised racism. That is a fundamental issue in that community. That the only person who got disciplined in all of this is a Black person who got fired for raising. Apparently, this person revealed some confidential records that were related to this situation. But there were others who did similar things, and nobody got disciplined except the Black person. Lost, I think it was a woman, lost her job. I don't know who it was, but I would have to look back at the details. But again, the fundamental issue in all of this is racism. That's the issue, and Chappelle makes the argument that they don't deal with that in their community. That the LGBTQ community don't deal with racism just like the rest of the community, the rest of the society, the broader society doesn't deal with it. He made the point that they can say N-word, N-word, N-word all day long, could talk about killing black people, can actually kill black people, and they have no complaints, no narrative around that, no uproar, no protest. But when you say something, even make a comment, a joking comment, and apparently his comment had been sort of vetted, if you will, with a transgender person. The comments that he was making came out of a relationship that he has with the transgender person. I'm not talking about a sexual relationship, a friendly relationship. And so I read about the stuff. I can't, I don't want to give misinformation, but the thing that was most striking to me, and in my view, most important, is he highlighted the racism that exists in that community.
Mikey?
But just to answer Barbara's question, I just wanted to say that he was saying a lot of was alleged to be transphobic remarks about trans people, and he did not back down. He said some stuff about gay people. If slaves had oil and booty shorts on, we might have been free 100 years sooner. Referring to the acronym for trans exclusionary radical feminist, a term that Rowling used to describe like trans people and trans activists. Then he went into a rant saying that gender is a fact. Okay, and those are just some of the things that people kind of wanted to hold him accountable for. And me personally, because I am the director of Save Rochester, I can't really give an official statement, but I can tell you what I think personally. I think that was it true? Was it on point? I think it was comedy. I think he was doing comedy. And I think that there is good humor. There's, just like wine, there's fine wine, and then there's very cheap stuff, right? And what Dave Chappelle gave everybody was the very cheap wine that doesn't do its job, doesn't make us laugh. Right. I'm sure it does make us laugh. I'm sure it, does intoxicate us with that type of humor. But we're talking about more sophisticated level with which many people are suggesting that Dave should be at this stage of his career because he's such an accomplished performer, because he's such an accomplished actor. Why is he doing this very lowbrow stuff that is really offensive? It really is. It's offensive. Now, if a white man makes a joke about a black man, right? Could it be considered funny? Sure. But many people might consider it offensive if he's making a joke about slavery, right? Or about a black man being poor or committing a crime, right? Although these may be things that may be funny in very lowbrow circles, somebody who is at the level that Dave Chappelle is on, I think he should have known better, okay? And that his comments were going to receive that type of backlash. And the fact that he did not apologize, I think just makes it worse.
Fred?
Mike, I have to disagree, or we just have to agree to disagree on this one. The narrative, I think what people are missing and what he was saying is that, and he was making side-by-side comparison. But when he spoke about the oil and the booty shorts, he was saying that how well that movement is progressing. And he was actually making the statement that as long as we have been fighting for freedom, that this group has came along and made strides in changing history more quickly than all the time that we've been trying to free ourselves as slaves. So I think that in the comedy, people were missing the trueness of what he was actually saying. And that's when he made that statement, that's what that statement alluded to. And he was saying that Black people, many of us, are jealous of the fact of how far the gay community has come in such a short time to change the way we look at things when it comes to how we deal with things. Like he made the statement about I think it's Lil Baby or Lil somebody that killed a person in Walmart, but and did not go to jail, but got crucified by the gay community for a statement he made on stage. The disparity there is unprecedented. And no one can tell me that a life and saying something that somebody doesn't like. And he was saying you can go in Walmart and kill someone, but you can't say anything to make a gay person mad. And those are disparities that remain. So we just have to agree to disagree on the content of what he was saying.
Howard?
I agree 100% with Fred. I think that comments like lowbrow, that's subjective, it's opinionated, and judgmental. It's not something that's factual. And I don't think there was anything for him to know better about. Dave Chappelle is a very intelligent man. He knew exactly what he was doing. And I agree with him. He owes nobody any apologies at all. And I got to tell you, man, it seems like many of us, Black folk now, I'm talking about Black folks, because again, for me, the underlying issue here is racism, is individual, institutional, structural racism. And it appears that many of us got this double standard. We are always ready to hold our own feet to the fire, our own people. But we let white people get away with murder. Right now, what's ringing in my head is I ain't heard none of us say a word about the racist white man who's over the state Democratic Party who compared a Black woman who just beat a 3 or 4 term mayor in Buffalo and compared her to David Duke, the KKK. This is the chairman of the state Democratic Party. I ain't heard a word from a Negro at all in Rochester, Buffalo, nowhere. But we talk about Dave Chappelle and how he is using lowbrow comedy. I think he's a genius, and I support him 100%. And it's just a disagreement, like Fred said. We just have to agree. I don't go for this concept about agree to disagree. Either we agree or we don't, and we don't.
I don't know if you want to go to Barbara because she hasn't said much, or I wanted to kind of respond to Howard, but Barbara, you want to go?
I just wanted to say that I didn't see it at all. I didn't see his presentation. But I do know people who are trans and who are gay, and from all races, actually. And it's a very hard process to try to make a balance in your life, to know you're born one way or you feel another way. It's a tough situation. But I don't know that we should lump everybody, like not all whites are racist, not all LGBT people are racist. I mean, I don't think we should paint it with a broad brush. I'm sure there are people in every segment of our population who have a lot of issues. And I would hate to see that we generalize.
Mikey?
I'm so glad to, thank you, Shanique. I'm so glad to hear Barbara say that, because there are so many intersections. People, when someone said something about the baby and his homophobic comments about AIDS and HIV, well, that he was talking about, he was referring to an epidemic that primarily affects Black folks and, Black folks in America. So it's so ironic, these intersections that we're talking about. So when we talk about trans people and the fact that, it's people look at it as Blacks versus the trans community. That's so ridiculous to me. That is so ridiculous to me that you're saying their movement went farther than our movement. No, our movement is the same. our movement is the same, whether you realize it or not. Like Barbara said, these people, they have what is called a mental dysphoria, where their actual body that they were born in, their brain doesn't think that they belong in their body. To me, we should be advocating for these people. Malcolm X said, we need more light about each other. Light creates understanding. Understanding creates love. Love creates patience. Patience creates unity. So while we are looking at our movement as being separate from the LGBTQ movement, let's take some notes from their book and find out how they are enacting legislation so fast. And we have a lot of people in the Black community who don't want to speak out about being a part of the LGBT community because of the retaliation that they will face, because we haven't historically as a people been welcoming to that. So I don't think we should be pitting one group against the other, because it's not a competition. And Dave Chappelle knows this. He's in the Hollywood circles. He knows that, all of these remarks that he was saying, we're the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to any group, when it comes to Catholics, when it comes to Jewish, when it comes to Christians, when it comes to citizens of the United States. So we should not be pitting one movement against the next.
James?
So my nature, as a Christian man, is to love everyone. It doesn't matter what the differences are, what your culture is, what your ethnicity is, what your sex is, what color. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just to love and not judge. But in Dave Chappelle, and I want to give, I think it was Fred, kudos, because Fred kind of responded so eloquently relative to, I think, what Dave Chappelle was trying to do. Maybe he didn't do it the right way totally. Maybe he made some mistakes along the way. He's not perfect, but I thought it was very artistic. Look at the attention that it's gotten now. Everyone's talking about it. And I think, I don't know, that's what Dave wanted to do. And what put it all together for me was the ending when he gave kudos to his friend in that LGBT community. Just the way you put that all together. So again, I'm not saying that, none of us are perfect. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And Dave Chappelle isn't perfect. But I think that, again, I'm not going to repeat what Fred said, because he was right on. It's like, how has their movement gone so quickly, so fast, and we're still being, subjected to racism, discrimination, unfair, unequitable treatment, being shot now and killed, without holding weapons and things like that. So I think it draws in a big conversation relative to all different types of races and religions and ethnicities, and the LGBT community and the Black community and the brown community and the yellow community, the Asians, how they're being beat up, and as victims, like they're the ones that caused COVID to come here, so it just draws in a lot of what we should have as conversation within our communities. And I think, again, for me, I think that's what he was trying to do. And I think he did it, because we're all talking about this one issue that should expand upon other issues of racism, discrimination, unfair and unequitable treatment.
Marquise?
Okay, what I don't understand about society is, why is it always okay for entertainers to talk about Black people, call out, be negative about ourselves, whether it's in music or comedy, but nobody has a problem with it when we down ourselves. But as soon as we talk about someone else, it's a problem. I don't understand that. We can call ourselves niggers. We can portray gangsters. Nobody has a problem with it. But as soon as we talk about another race or another group of people, now again, it is a big problem. It's even like that in the music business. We call our women hoes, talk about drugs, talk about sex, disrespecting, calling each other nigger. But you'll never hear artists say anything about the Caucasian race or another race. So it's always accepted when we say things about ourselves, but as soon as we go outside of ourselves as a people, I'm saying, it's always a problem. always. And that's what I don't understand. Why it's always a problem when just to summarize, why is it always a problem when we talk negativity about ourselves, but as soon as we say something else about somebody else, it's a big issue.
Howard?
That's what I don't get.
That is a very, very important question, brother. And we would need hours to really, as they say, unpack the true essence of that. But if you want to kind of summarize it, it's how effective post-traumatic slave syndrome really is. It's how brainwashed we are, how accepting we are. It's like almost like diabolical. So it's a sickness, brother, of sorts. It's a sickness. And I would argue that it is what is actually left over from slavery that has been passed down through the generations, that we have inferiority complex, deep inferiority complex. And we actually literally value ourselves less than we value others. And I know that's a big, broad definition, but I don't think I'm off base. If we had the time, we could make the argument in detail. And so I think you're so right. And I think we should stop ignoring it and nobody could deny what you said. It is an absolute fact. A fact, it's a historical reality, what you're describing. So I don't know why it was raised that we should not paint people with a broad brush. I don't think anybody here did that. And if I came across as doing that, I just wanted to be clear that I did not do that. I don't believe I did. If we play the tape back, I don't think the tape would show that. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in this, stereotypical, narrow-minded explanations of complex issues. I don't do that. But I talked about individual institutional structural racism, which is embedded in this thoroughly racist, white supremacist-based society. That's a fact. So no, as far as I know, no one here has painted all trans people as racist, all white people as racist. I didn't hear that. But it's interesting that a woman who I call the queen of whiteness will tell you that all white people are racist. And she will make a brilliant argument that they are, that it's inescapable. I'm talking about Dr. Robin DiAngelo. She makes that argument. And so when people start fussing, I tell them to go talk to your own scholar. But anyways, that's sort of off the point. We cannot accept, you all, it's just not historically accurate that our struggle, the Black liberation struggle, is the same as the transgender community's struggle. It is not. If you're talking about Black trans people, of course it is, because all Black people are part of the Black diaspora. So we all have the same struggle, but you cannot lump white trans people or white straight people or white any kind of people in and say that their struggle is the same as ours. Because if you're saying that, then you're also saying that racism is irrelevant, that it's not significant. And it is the major contradiction in this society. So no, let's stop that. Stop it. Mikey, I'm not picking on you, but as an educator, it hurts me to hear you say that. It's just not true. Historically, that's not accurate. Let's examine that. I'm asking you, let's examine it. Let's really examine whether that's a true statement. It is not. You cannot show that is an accurate statement, that our struggles are the same. They're not. I'm sorry, excuse me, y'all, for ranting and raving and raising my voice, but this stuff, man, we need to, I don't know, Shanique, maybe you need to have a show every day. I don't know.
I don't know if we could do that. Fred?
Yes. Couple things. Dave Chappelle never said that he hated trans people, gay people, or anyone, and he never was pitting one group against another group. He was just making correlations between different things in history as they unfolded. Like one of them was that it was easier for Bruce Jenner to change his sex than for Muhammad Ali to change his name. So those are the things that he was bringing up throughout his show. So it wasn't picking at one group or another, as people assumed. They were just not listening sometimes when people are saying something, you hear one piece of something that you disagree with, and then you stop listening to the rest of it that would have explained exactly what the person was saying in the beginning of the conversation. And even myself, I said in the beginning of when I spoke that it would be hard pressed for me to believe as a fact in biology that all the people created on the planet, at some point, there would not be some people that would not be something wrong. All plants are not the same. Some may have 6 leaves, some have 4. So why would it be different in biology when it came to human beings, that a person would be in a body, but the mind would be another facet? So that's what I said in the beginning. So it's just that me personally, if I'm going to be in a place where I'm disrobing, then I would feel more comfortable with a person that is in the same gender as me, not one that changed gender. That's just me personally. But that's not saying that I dislike anyone in either gender. And so that's what I think. I go back to what he was saying, and I agree with James. It was just artful on how he brought this to bear. And may we not forget his ending with his friend that was transgender, that came to his aid when people started attacking him, and then they started attacking their own. It would seem as though they were like piranha. They turned around and started attacking their own. And he, once his friend killed themselves, he created a fund for their child. So, and he said that he don't know if the transgender group did that or not. But he created a trust fund for that child. So if it was like everyone is perceiving it to be, why would he do this on his own without any reservations from anyone else?
Mikey?
Well, this conversation is really difficult because obviously I'm the only one who kind of sees. I think I can see that he obviously was making an attempt at comedy, and I think I've said already that it was extremely lowbrow and he's extremely tone deaf. If everybody knows that this is happening in America, then why would you say something so incendiary to you definitely cause the controversy that you were looking for. So I don't understand how someone can cause a controversy and then play victim. You can't have it both ways. Either you're going to have a stance on something and really believe in something, and then, but don't say, oh, I don't know why, well, actually, I don't think he was apologetic at all, but I don't think anybody can cry victim for Dave Chappelle. He has no remorse. It doesn't look like he's going to have remorse. And I don't think it's okay for Black people to call each other bees and hoes and all of this other stuff. Just a certain segment of our population thinks that is acceptable. And when we do it to ourselves, is an esteem issue that, as I think Howard referred to, of course, I think it does tie into a lot of cultural esteem issues. How we view ourselves, institutional racism plays a huge role in that. But we're not talking about institutional racism. We're talking about Dave Chappelle, who is a Black man who is in a tax bracket that most of us will not many of us will ever see. And he is being very irresponsible with his platform. Instead of doing this really educational, entertaining type of monologue, he decided to make a choice. And that choice was to come down on one of the most discriminated people in America. Now, whether we want to, compare the Black, liberation movement to trans people, that's not what I'm trying to do. But if we were to talk about discrimination, they are one of the most discriminated against groups because they are discriminated against every single body. Black people, white people, it doesn't matter what, Asian people, they're discriminated against in every single culture. And that's what I meant, Howard, in our fight is the same. Not in the same sense that Black liberation is the same as trans rights. That would be ridiculous to assume that, because we know we've had over 400 years of free labor in this country, and even more, a couple hundred years after that of trying to just establish ourselves as human beings. So we know, I'm not trying to compare. It's not that type of thing. But when we talk about discrimination in the state that our nation is in right now, when trans people are being murdered on the streets, for you to say, oh, I was just making a joke and they didn't have it as hard as Black people have it. That's just extremely immature of you, irresponsible. And I think a lot of people at the end of the day are going to end up eating crow on this issue.
Howard?
Again, I just have to point out as a fact, when you make statements like it was lowbrow, it was incendiary, he was looking for controversy, those are all subjective judgments. It's your opinion. And I'm thinking now about Dr. Malana Karinga, who teaches us that sometimes we could tell how important opinions are just by the mere fact that everyone has them. Your opinion is no more important or valid than anybody's here. And my opinion is there was nothing lowbrow about his comedy. He's a genius. He's a genius of a comedian. So that's my opinion.
Howard, can I ask you a
No,
question?
don't do that, Mike. I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
Don't interrupt me. It's an opinion. That's all it is. It's one that I reject. I reject that if it was incendiary, we should ask why. It shouldn't have been. Remember, we already said we could say N-word, 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 nigga, nigga, nigga all day long, and that ain't incendiary. So why? What's the difference? Measure that. Don't take that lightly. Really ask yourself that before you go to bed tonight. What's the difference? And he didn't apologize. Right, he doesn't have remorse. There's nothing for him to be remorseful about. Nothing. You could try to make this distorted argument about when you said that our struggle is the same as trans people, you didn't really mean in terms of Black liberation. You was talking about discrimination and so. No. Either our struggles are the same or they're not, and they are not. White trans people are not discriminated against to the level that poor Black people are in this society. They're not, period. You might find an exception, but I'm talking about the rule. As a rule, white trans people, no white people, no matter what their gender is discriminated to the degree and extent that poor Black people are, especially poor Black women in this society. No, that's not a fact. Historically, it is not. And you should stop pushing that because it's not credible. That's not credible.
Marquise?
Oh, I see Miss Brody wanted to say something and she's been quiet. So I'll wait and let her go first because she raised her hand and everything. So I'll go after her.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I think we have to respect each other's perceptions. And I don't think whatever race it is, it doesn't make any difference. We all have different perceptions about seeing the same thing. But I think we have to not try to force our own views on other people. And so I think we just need to appreciate that people have different sets of opinions.
Go ahead,
I
Marquise.
agree with that. So what I wanted to say when the brother said that Dave Chappelle, and I say this respectively, it's just a different perception, that Dave Chappelle is in a different tax bracket and maybe he shouldn't be doing it the way he's doing it. I don't want to misquote you, but that's what I got out of what you said. His tax bracket is irrelevant. We're still all living in the same world. His opinion doesn't mean more or less because of what he makes. So that's irrelevant of his tax bracket. And as far as a comedian, you said something about why is he even talking about this? Well, when you're a comedian, you're supposed to talk about the hot topics, whatever it is. I mean, he could have talked about the recall of onions and made it funny. But when you're a comedian, you're supposed to talk about what's hot. And he just and I agree with the other brothers. I didn't see any. He went out his way to make it clear that there was no prejudice and no hate. Now his comedy sometimes it's kind of slow, you know, it could be kind of corny sometimes, but that's just his style. You know, that's just the style. But his opinion matters, and it doesn't matter less because he's making money to say it. And I just wanted to share that. And again, he went out his way to show that he wasn't prejudiced. He went out his way, and that's all.
Mikey?
I think this might be one of my last. Thank you. I think this might be one of my last points. But I just want to say, when anybody, okay, I have a question. Maybe you can do a quick poll, and raise your hand if you, or whatever, or type it in the chat. Do you think it's acceptable to for a comedian to make jokes about mentally disabled people? They used to use the R word. The R word was retarded, and we've stopped using that. So does anybody think it's okay to make fun of mentally disabled people? Probably not, right? We can all agree that it's not okay to make a joke about mentally disabled people. However, if you were to make a joke, the chances that people would laugh, right, are above 90% of your crowd, right? And that's even as educators, we know that. We know that, all of the educators in the room, if a kid is making fun of somebody who is mentally challenged, yeah, people are going to laugh, but does it make it right? Doesn't make it right. And that's my fundamental argument here. And me alluding to Dave Chappelle's tax bracket was simply alluding to the fact that he had a wealth of not only money, but a wealth of knowledge and experience from having acquired that much wealth. Okay, so he should have known, that when, at a certain level, there's a heightened sense of awareness. There's a heightened sense of scrutiny, essentially. Yeah, so you knew what you were doing, and you were using the R word. I'm using an analogy here. You were using the R word. You were talking about those mentally disabled kids, and you thought, oh, it's okay because mentally disabled people have had more legislation passed than Black folks have had. That's ridiculous. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, anyone else want to jump in there?
I just don't know where our brother been. If I go and just Google, I could bring you up tons of examples of comedians making jokes about mentally challenged people. They do it all the time. Why? What are you talking about?
I said it doesn't make it right, Howard. It's lowbrow. I would leave if you started to make fun of mentally disabled people and I was in the audience, because my brother was born with congenital defects, and anytime he's around, I'm extra conscious about whether I'm laughing or not at that type of stuff, because I know he's looking at me.
I get it, but I'm just telling you may, unless I misunderstood you, you ask people, would they agree that we shouldn't make jokes about mentally challenged people, as if that doesn't happen. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and people make jokes about trans people all the time as well.
And people make jokes about niggas all the time as well.
Right. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it right.
But I don't hear us complaining. But anyways, it's just a matter of opinion. Miss Brody is right. I respect your opinion, but I vehemently disagree with it.
Anyone else want to chime in? We've had a lot of stuff going on. Fred?
Yes, I think that it baffles me of how much passion is in this subject, but it's not the same passion for the Black people that are getting killed every day with guns, drugs on the street. We are not here. We don't hear that passion when we meet to talk about those issues. And so, I mean, it does baffle me that here we are, we're talking about a gender and whether someone makes a joke about a person's gender as if it's a life or death situation when we have Black people getting killed every single day, even in this city, but we don't have people standing up like that. And we're saying that it's wrong. I'm not saying that it's right. It's wrong. I am just baffled at the passion that I see. It really baffles me. It's the push to make change so that a word doesn't make somebody uncomfortable, but a death in the life, we can sit back and just watch that on TV like it's okay. And they just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just find that's a real disconnect, a real disconnect for me.
Anyone else want to jump in there?
I was just going to say in response to Fred, that's why I've had the gun violence forum on my mind at the forefront. I've been having conversations with Shanique very often to try to make this gun violence forum happen. So I'm equally as passionate. I understand what you're saying, brother. People do get a lot. I've noticed that people do get a lot more passionate, heated up. I don't know, excited about these types of issues, but I just want to let you know I'm with you on that, and I am committed to spreading awareness about that gun violence piece. Absolutely.
All right. Any more? I mean, we had a lot of conversation tonight. Barb, do you want to add anything? Marquise, anyone have any final thoughts? Barb, jump in there.
I just want to say it was wonderful.
Thank you. I love when people come.
Does Pastor Trey want to weigh in? She hasn't said anything.
Hey,
Both of
Sharita.
us. Hey, I just want to say thanks for the conversation. We need more of this conversation. No matter where you fall on the issue, it's important that we're having this dialogue. So thank you for the opportunity. I learned a lot, as I always do, with everybody that's on the line. So Rich is here too.
Hey, Rich.
Okay. Two things. One thing, I just want everybody to remember that, the history of comedy is people taking stuff and exaggerating, talking about it, saying stuff that other people won't say. So there's constantly mad people around the world that will talk about retards, that will talk about niggas, that will talk about transgender, that will talk about homosexuals, that will talk about all these people that need rights and need protection and need nurturing. They'll talk about it, but they won't talk about it out in the open. And comedians, through history, have talked about things that others have not talked about. So I think that has gotten away in this situation. I think Dave Chappelle was telling jokes, and it has gotten away because of the situation that has transpired recently, as over the years, as transgenders and LGBTQ, whichever group you're looking at, are fighting for rights, just as Blacks did over the years, and they're still doing. And it's a sensitive topic. I understand it's a sensitive topic, but like somebody said before, this last show he did, in the jokes, he explained that it should not be taken personal. It should be taken as a joke because his profession is comedy. At the end of the day, his profession is comedy. Now, with comedy, everybody might not like it. You know what I'm saying? Like Mike is saying, like, if he hears a joke about something that relates to his brother or something like that, yeah, you know, get pissed off, you're gonna walk out. If I hear something that affects me a certain way, I'm gonna turn off the TV. Man, this dude's not funny. You know what I'm saying? That happens, but it's per opinion. And the last thing, there was the brother KSSUW has been raising his hand, Shanique, so he had something to say. I just been seeing him trying to raise his hand. But that's all I wanted to say, is that people had to keep it in perspective of his profession is comedy. And when he had the Dave Chappelle show, he was talking about himself and people like him of Black color through the whole show, through every episode. You know what I'm saying? From being a crackhead to doing other stuff. So it wasn't just, he hasn't just been on, LGBTQ, for his whole career. He's talked about a lot of different stuff. So that's all I wanted to say. But that brother has something to say also.
I'm simple. Now, I just wanted to say, with my man, can I call you Ready, Freddie? All right. what my man Ready Freddie was saying, maybe we should have a I think we discussed this kind of, Esper, but maybe we should have a discussion about gun violence. What you think?
Yeah, of course. You know, I'm always open. We have been, I know Mikey and we have a forum coming up where we will, it's at the Mercantile. Mikey, do you want to jump in and talk about the gun violence one more time?
Absolutely. Fred, I don't know if I sent you an email, guys. Howard, I know you got the email, but Mr. Patterson, please type your email in the chat and we'll get you that information. Or anybody who wants that information, type it in the chat and we'll get that information over to you. You can also check out toxinmag.com. You can check out saverochester.org to get more information as well. So gun violence is very important to us. I just want to speak. Was it the guy Richard with brother Richard with Sharita? Okay.
Yeah.
I love what he was saying. A lot of it makes sense. But if we look at the final thought to Lee, and I know I'm not trying to convince y'all of my viewpoint, but I really want to stand my ground on this. I think that Dave Chappelle sells a product, right? That product is comedy. And like Richard was saying, I'm going to choose he acknowledged the fact that it's opinion. I can choose to walk out if I need to. So if we use that same, line of reasoning, can't people boycott a product, right? So what's the problem with people boycotting a product if it's like, if it needs a recall or, if it did some damage to them? What's the problem, I guess I'm asking, with people boycotting Dave Chappelle if they don't agree with him, if he's selling that product of comedy?
Who are you asking that to? Were you asking Rich?
Anyone.
There's no problem with anybody boycotting something, but this has gone beyond that. You were talking about he didn't apologize and so forth. I mean, that's the stuff where, what makes you think he owes somebody an apology? That kind of, if somebody want to boycott, that's their right. Nobody, I don't think anybody would argue and say, no, you can't boycott Dave Chappelle. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And hopefully, certainly you're not going to spend your money on it. So I don't think anybody would argue with you on that point. I don't see how anybody would.
Fred?
Yes, I mean, I can see a person wanting to boycott something. But the critical question becomes is, what did he say that he lied about? In his whole show, what did he say that was a lie? And if you're going to boycott something, you're boycotting it because there is something wrong with it. But everything he said, that to me, I didn't hear anything that he said that was not true.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this thing up. Just trying to see any more final. This was really great, guys, just to have this dialogue, to be able to have some questions answered and asked. Marquise, jump in there.
I guess the bottom line is you can't please everybody. That's the bottom line. You can't please everybody.
Right.
And that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this thing up. This was really exciting, and I can't wait for next week. We'll figure out another topic. And again, I appreciate everyone who joined in. Thanks again. And I really enjoyed this conversation. So shout out to the community.
Thank you, Shanique, for hosting this. We appreciate it.
Thank you for joining. Good night.
All right. Good night.